A rainy night in Grimsby saw by all means a struggling United side facing League Two opposition Grimsby Town FC. Benjamin Sesko's transfer fee of £73 million could sustain Grimsby FC for the next 8 years, not to mention the fees of other stars like Harry Maguire and Brian Mbeumo. But like a fish out of water, United and goalkeeper Andre Onana started flopping from the kickoff, conceding 2 goals in the first half, making Grimsby look like Real Madrid and the small fortress on the east coast sound like the Bernabeu. United managed to crawl back to a 2-2 draw in the second half, only to lose on penalties. This, by all measures, was a massive bottle job. Over the years, the term bottle jobs have been growing and loosely thrown around in the footballing world. Today I want to take a look at the true scale of the bottle job. When talking about bottlers in the manufacturing world, we have some great corporations in the industry. When looking at the scale of bottling going on, we first need to start at the COVID era prime bottlers. The 2024 Carabao Cup Finals, set in the backdrop of Jurgen Klopp announcing his resignation from Liverpool FC, a club he brought back to the top after 30 years floating and threatening to go back to their perch. Going into this match, Liverpool was short a lot of stars, missing the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Mohamed Salah and £1 million striker Darwin Núñez. Liverpool fielded by all accounts a bunch of street youths, in contrast to Chelsea fielding Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo, both costing over £100 million each. Owner Todd Boehly has spent £1 billion since his arrival in 2022. By all measures, this should have been a one-sided affair. However, the bottle factory was in full force when the 90 minutes ended all square at 0-0. Serial bottler Mauricio Pochettino said they were hunting for penalties going into extra time. But with generational chokers in the squad, it came as little surprise when they conceded in extra time, losing 1-0. After the game, Sky Sport pundit and Premier League Hall of Famer Gary Neville dubbed the Chelsea side £1 billion blue pound bottle jobs. But when talking about serial, low-level bottlers, we have to talk about the competitive bottlers themselves, England in every major tournament. There is no shame in losing to Italy, a side that can't even qualify for the World Cup over the last 10 years on penalties, or even reaching the same finals years later just to lose against a Spanish super team. No. This era of English football can at least reach finals. No. When talking about England bottling tournaments, we have to go back to the golden era. On paper, England's so-called golden generation should have delivered silverware. From the mid-2000s into the early 2010s, they boasted a spine most nations would envy. Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, Beckham, Rooney, Terry, Ferdinand, Champions League winners, league dominators, global stars, and yet, when international tournaments arrived, England consistently found new ways to fall short. World Cup 2008 was the first major fracture. England exited in the quarter-finals against Portugal, once again on penalties, Wayne Rooney's infamous red card, tactical confusion and a midfield overflowing with talent but lacking cohesion summed it all up. Then came Euro 2008, the choke that didn't even need a tournament. England failed to qualify entirely, losing a decisive match at Wembley to Croatia. It was humiliation that symbolized complacency, poor management, and the belief that qualification was a formality. For a squad stacked with elite players, not even reaching the Euros was unforgivable. Finally, Euro 2012 offered one last chance for redemption. England topped their group under Roy Hodgson, raising cautious hope, but in the quarter-finals against Italy, they produced a masterclass in survival football, chasing shadows for 120 minutes before predictably losing on penalties. Andres Pirlo's Panenka wasn't just cheeky, it was symbolic. Italy played with freedom, England played with fear. The tragedy of England's golden generation wasn't a lack of talent. It was an inability to manage pressure, adapt tactically, or build a team rather than a collection of stars. When it mattered most, England didn't lose because they were outplayed, they lost because they froze again and again and again. Moving on toward massive international scale bottling, we can look no further than the multi-billion-dollar bottlers, the likes of the Ashley Group, or even more fitting as this category will be focused on massive Champions League chokes, the Heineken level bottle jobs. The 2008 Champions League final summarizes the era perfectly. Manchester United versus Chelsea in the finals. These two teams have been true rivals in this era, and in this game they managed to keep a 1-1 score going throughout the 120 minutes played. Going into penalties, both teams were converting from the spot, a perfect record for both. Up comes John Terry, Chelsea captain and Premier League Hall of Famer. John Terry, till this day, is the top goal scorer as a defender in the Premier League. And in a sudden death scenario, is there anybody more certain to convert from the spot? John Terry picked his spot, and in the run-up, he slipped and he fell while hitting the ball. A comedy of errors, a penalty like no other. Captain Choke, everybody. Featuring in the last video is no other than the professional bottle jobs themselves, late 2010s PSG. In 2017, after completely destroying Barcelona 4-0, all they had to do was keep the game competitive. Losing was not an issue, losing by 4 more goals was. Well, listen, I'll just stop the preamble. They went on to lose their 4-goal lead in a 6-1 loss on the night, 6-5 on aggregate. This was such a big choke that the curse of the choke transferred to Barcelona. After trashing PSG in 2017, the choke bug was transferred to Barcelona. The following season they crashed out of the Champions League against a, to be quite honest, a much more humble Roma side. Drawing at home and conceding 3 in Rome, the bigger bottle job came the following season though. It's the Champions League semi-finals. Barcelona already won their home leg against Liverpool in a thrashing of 3-0. But very reminiscent of PSG in 2017, the second leg started with the host pulling 1 goal back. But for the rest of the game, Barcelona held strong, controlling the lion's share of possession, but in the 54th minute while Neidem pulled another goal back only to net a brace 2 minutes later. No worry, at 3-3 they could still go to extra time. Of course they didn't hold on to go to extra time. After a bit of crafty play from Liverpool, Defrock Origi netted the winning goal. Since that night against PSG, Barcelona has never veered past the semi-finals. The final echelon of bottle jobs. The PepsiCo, bottling around 1 billion bottles. The events in this category are truly fine vintage bottling. For most of the 2022-23 season, Arsenal weren't flirting with the title, they were living in first place. From autumn through spring, they set the pace, dictated the mood of the league and played with a freedom that suggested this wasn't borrowed time, this was ownership. The numbers backed it up, week after week at the summit, a young squad living like they had nothing to lose. The Emirates stopped hoping and started expecting. Arsenal weren't waiting for City to slip, they were daring them to catch up. But title races don't test talent, they test nerve. The shift didn't happen all at once, it crept in. A 2-goal lead surrendered at Anfield, another thrown away against West Ham. Still first, still smiling, but something had changed. The football slowed, the urgency faded, possession turned safe, safe turned passive. This is the point where bottle jobs stop being accidents and start becoming infrastructure. Pressure doesn't arrive loudly, it tightens, and when it does, some teams crack, others scale up the operation. Arsenal didn't just drop points, they began to lead belief. Every game became heavier than the last. First place stopped feeling like control and started feeling like something that needed protecting. When Manchester City finally stepped in, the contrast was brutal. One side moved with certainty, the other waited. At the Etihad, Arsenal didn't look beaten, they looked restrained, as if the moment itself was playing against them. Injuries mattered. Losing Saliba exposed the system, but champions adjust. Arsenal didn't lose the title in one night, they let it drain over weeks, match by match, lead by lead. This wasn't chaos, it was consistency, just in the wrong direction. That's what separates ordinary collapses from the elite category. Not a single spill, but repetition, controlled, efficient, unavoidable. By the time City went top, the outcome felt sealed long before the table confirmed it. And Arsenal, they aren't alone in this tier, because English football has seen this before. On top of the plastic waste mountain stands one. Brendan Rodgers' Liverpool played without breaks. Luis Suarez was unplayable, Daniel Sturridge lethal, Raheem Sterling fearless. Goals flowed freely and belief returned to Anfield for the first time in decades. And at the centre of it all stood Steven Gerrard, a local lad, a captain, a man who had carried Liverpool through Istanbul, through near misses, through eras of underachievement. This was meant to be his crowning moment, one final march to the title that had haunted his entire career. Late April, Liverpool beat Manchester City, Anfield shook. Gerrard gathered his teammates in the huddle and delivered the line that would come to define the season. We can't let this slip. They were top of the league, 3 games from glory, destiny finally felt aligned. Then came Chelsea. A subdued Anfield, Mourinho parked everything. Liverpool pressed, pushed, forced it, and then the moment. A loose touch. Gerrard stretches, his foot slides, the ball escapes him. Demba runs through, 1-on-1, goal, silence. Not a tactical failure, not a team collapse. 1 second, one slip, one mistake. From the man least expected to make it, the title didn't fall away, it shattered. Not a spilled bottle, not a cracked seal, but mass production under maximum pressure. There are bottle jobs that don't fade, they age, they ferment, they grow, heavier with time, because some collapses happen in moments, some over matches, but the worst ones, they live forever. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. I've been Chris from the Touchline Reports. Cheers.